Get her out! I want that black maid gone. Now! Richard Thornton's voice sliced through his earpiece like a knife. His eyes locked onto the woman in the gray uniform pushing a cleaning cart across his lobby. His hand trembled against the marble pillar. Outside, 4 black Escalades pulled into the circular driveway. $200 million was about to walk through those doors, and Richard Thornton was 12 minutes away from the biggest humiliation of his life. What happened next would destroy everything he believed about power status and the invisible people he had spent 23 years ignoring. Before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel and follow this story until the very end. Please comment below with the city you are watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. Now, let us begin. Richard Thornton pressed his finger harder against his earpiece. Did you hear me? Get her out of my lobby before Chen sees her. Housekeeping should be invisible today. Completely invisible. Copy that, Mr. Thornton. Richard exhaled. 23 years. That's how long it had taken him to climb from bellboy to this corner office. Every missed birthday, every ruined holiday, every fight with his ex-wife that ended with her screaming about his obsession with work. All of it came down to the next 3 hours. His phone buzzed. Chen confirmed. He's considering 3 other properties. This is your one shot. Don't blow it. Richard's jaw tightened. Don't blow it. As if he needed reminding. He turned to his executive team. 8 people. Combined salaries over $2 million. Degrees from Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Not one of them spoke a single word of Mandarin. Status report now. Jennifer Walsh stepped forward first. Presidential suite ready, temperature at 72 degrees, Evian water, not Fiji, fresh orchids every 4 hours. Good. Food? Marcus stepped up. 8-course authentic Chinese menu, 3 cultural advisors consulted. 3 advisors and nobody hired a translator. Silence. Richard caught himself. Forget it. His assistant confirmed he speaks perfect English. And we have this. He held up his phone. Latest AI translation, 97% accuracy. Nobody mentioned that 3% could destroy everything. Places. He arrives in 12 minutes. The team scattered. Richard walked to the center of the lobby. The marble gleamed. The chandelier sparkled. The music played at exactly the right volume. Everything was perfect. Everything was under control. He adjusted his tie for the 11th time. Mr. Thornton. He turned. Emma Rodriguez, head of housekeeping, stood with her hands clasped. The posture of someone used to apologizing for existing. What is it, Emma? You asked me to remove Maya Richardson from the lobby. The woman with the cart, yes, and she's one of my best workers, never late, never complains. Emma hesitated. I thought you should know she speaks some Chinese. She mentioned it once. Maybe she could help with... Emma. Richard's voice dropped 10 degrees. I have a $200 million investor arriving in 11 minutes. I have Ivy League executives. I have the most advanced translation technology money can buy. What I do not need is a housekeeper who learned phrases from takeout menus thinking she belongs in a business meeting. Emma's face flushed red. Are we clear? Yes, sir? Crystal clear. Good. Keep her in the service areas until Chen leaves. I don't want distractions. Emma nodded and walked away quickly. Richard checked his watch. 10 minutes. He had no idea that the woman he just dismissed would be the only person who could save his career. 3 floors up, Maya Richardson stripped sheets from a king-sized bed. 4 years. That's how long she had perfected the art of being invisible. 4 years of hospital corners and restocked minibars. 4 years of executives looking through her like glass. Her phone buzzed. Student loan notification. Payment past due, contact us immediately. Maya silenced it and shoved the phone in her pocket. Options. Funny word for someone with $300,000 in debt and a housekeeping salary. Her walkie-talkie crackled. Maya, stay in service areas. VIP arrival. Mr. Thornton's orders. Understood. And Maya? I'm sorry. I tried to tell him you might help with the Chinese guests. It's okay, Emma. I know how it works. She released the button and stood motionless. 6 years in Beijing. A master's degree. Fluency in 3 languages. A thesis her professor called groundbreaking. None of it mattered, because when Richard Thornton looked at her, all he saw was a black woman in a gray uniform, someone to hide when important people arrived. Maya finished the bed and moved to the bathroom. 317 rejection letters sat in a folder on her laptop, each one a polite variation of "we've decided to pursue other candidates." The last interview had been 6 months ago, a major hotel chain, Asia Pacific Guest Relations. She had prepared for weeks, worn her best suit, the one from her Beijing graduation. The interview lasted 14 minutes. "Your credentials are impressive," the man had said, barely glancing at her resume, "but we're looking for someone with more direct experience." Maya had wanted to scream. 6 years in China, in the actual Asia-Pacific region, but she smiled, shook his hand, walked out with her dignity. That night, she cried in her bathroom until 2 in the morning. The next day, she put on her gray uniform and went back to work. Because that's what you do when you have no choice. Her walkie-talkie crackled again. "All housekeeping clear main floors. VIP arriving in 5 minutes." Maya gathered her supplies and headed for the service elevator. She had no intention of going near that lobby, but fate had other plans. At exactly 200 p.m., the Escalades pulled up to the Grandview. Richard watched through the glass as security emerged first, scanning the entrance. His heart slammed against his ribs. This was it. The rear door opened. Mr. Chen Wei-lin stepped out. Richard had studied photographs, read the biography until he could recite it. Born in Fujian province. First hotel at 23. Empire spanning 50 properties across 3 continents. But photographs hadn't prepared him for this. Chen was smaller than expected. 5'7" at most. Charcoal suit, red tie. Power radiating from every pore, but it was his eyes that caught Richard off guard. Eyes that had seen everything, feared nothing, built empires and destroyed anyone who wasted his time. Behind him, 6 associates carried identical leather portfolios. Richard pushed through the glass doors. "Mr. Chen, welcome to the Grandview. We are deeply honored." Chen's handshake lasted half a second. He nodded once. Then he turned to his associates and began speaking rapid Mandarin. Richard's smile froze. The words poured out like a flood. Complex. Technical. Nothing like the phrases Richard had practiced. He waited for a pause. There wasn't one. Chen spoke for a full minute without acknowledging Richard existed. Finally, a woman stepped forward. Sharp eyes, sharper cheekbones. "I am Ms. Huang, Mr. Chen's interpreter. He is expressing initial observations about your property." Richard's smile widened with relief. "Wonderful. Please tell him we're delighted he's here. Presidential suite ready. Authentic Chinese cuisine prepared by our executive chef." Ms. Huang translated. Chen responded with another burst of Mandarin. "Mr. Chen says the architecture is acceptable. He wants to discuss structural capacity for potential expansion." "Of course, we have a comprehensive presentation prepared." Chen checked his platinum watch, said something that made Ms. Huang's expression tighten. "Mr. Chen has limited time. He prefers addressing primary questions before committing to a lengthy presentation." "Absolutely. What would he like to know, Chen spoke directly to Richard this time. Slower, but no less complex. Ms. Huang hesitated. "Mr. Chen is asking about recent amendments to foreign investment tax structures in New York State, specifically how changes to Section 721B affect hospitality holdings, incorporating mixed-use retail development." Blood drained from Richard's face. Excellent question." He fumbled for his phone. Opened the translation app. "Can Mr. Chen please repeat his question about tax structures?" The app processed, then produced, "Can chicken please repeat tax building moon?" One associate coughed to hide a laugh. Chen's expression turned to stone. Richard tried again, slower this time. "Please, tax money tree, foreign question important now." The silence was devastating. Chen turned to Ms. Huang and spoke sharply. Whatever he said made her wince. "Mr. Chen is concerned that a hotel seeking international investment appears unprepared for international communication." Sweat beaded on Richard's forehead. "Please assure Mr. Chen we have a full presentation. If he allows me a moment to gather my team." Chen held up his hand. 3 words in Mandarin. Ms. Huang went pale. "You have 5 minutes." Richard nodded frantically and backed away. The moment he was out of earshot, he grabbed his phone. "Jennifer, conference room, now, everyone. And find me someone who speaks Mandarin. Anyone. Guest, delivery person, someone off the street. I don't care." "Richard, we've called every service in the city. Earliest is 45 minutes. We have 4 minutes left." "I know. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do." Richard hung up and pressed his back against the wall. 23 years. Evaporating because of one language he never bothered to learn. He thought about his ex-wife. Her face during the divorce. "You sacrificed everything for that job. I hope it was worth it." Standing in that hallway watching his career die, Richard finally had his answer. It wasn't. In the service corridor behind the lobby, Maya Richardson stood frozen. She wasn't supposed to be there. Emma had told her to stay back. Thornton had ordered her invisible, but the ventilation grate opened directly above the lobby. She had heard everything, not just the English, the Mandarin too. Chen wasn't asking simple questions. He was testing the hotel's sophistication, probing their understanding of international business, and Richard was failing spectacularly. Maya's hands gripped her cart. She should walk away, stay invisible, stay safe. But something stirred in her chest, something dangerous, hope. If Chen invested, the Grandview would expand. International positions would open. Opportunities aligned with her actual qualifications. Or she could stay invisible and watch it all walk out the door. Maya closed her eyes. She thought about her mother working 2 jobs to put her through college, her professor in Beijing saying she had a gift, the 317 rejection letters. The young woman who stood in Tiananmen Square 8 years ago, terrified and ready to take on the world. Where had she gone? When had Maya learned to make herself so small, she disappeared? Her eyes opened, her hands were shaking, but she knew exactly what she needed to do. Richard stood in the conference room, surrounded by his highest-paid employees. Options, now. Request a postponement, the financial controller said. Bring in proper translation tomorrow. Postponement means rejection. Chen meets 2 other hotels this week. We postpone, he's gone. Video conference with remote translator. Takes an hour to set up. We have 2 minutes. Written communication instead of verbal. The app processes Chinese characters better. So I hand the most important investor of my career a tablet and ask him to type, "That's your solution." No one had a better one. Through the glass, Chen was standing, his associates gathering materials. They were leaving. $200 million. Walking out. Nothing Richard could do. "Excuse me." Every head turned. Richard's eyes went wide. The black woman from the lobby. The housekeeper, gray uniform, sensible shoes. The one he had ordered removed 3 times. She was looking directly at him. "What are you doing here?" "I apologize for the interruption, Mr. Thornton. This is a private meeting, critical meeting. I don't have time for whatever HR complaint you're about to file." The woman didn't flinch. "I'm not here to complain. I heard your conversation with Mr. Chen. I can help." Richard laughed, ugly sound. "You can help, a housekeeper, with a $200 million negotiation." "Yes, sir." "How exactly?" The woman took a breath. Then she spoke in Mandarin. Perfect, fluid, academically precise. "Mr. Thornton, I hold a master's degree in East Asian linguistics and international business from Beijing University. I spent 6 years in China. I'm fluent in Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese. I understood every word Mr. Chen said. I can address his concerns." The room went dead silent. Richard stared at her like she had materialized from another dimension. His mouth opened, closed, opened. "You speak Chinese?" "Yes, sir." "Fluently?" "Yes, sir." "You have a master's degree from Beijing University." Page 2 of my application, educational background. Richard's face cycled through 5 emotions. Shock, disbelief, confusion, embarrassment, fear. Why didn't anyone tell me? No one asked, sir. The words hit like a slap. Jennifer stepped forward. "What's your name?" "Maya Richardson." "Maya, are you certain you can handle this? Chen is one of the most sophisticated investors in global hospitality." I understood his questions perfectly. He's asking about amendments to Section 721B of the New York Tax Code and how they affect mixed-use hospitality developments. He's comparing local zoning to frameworks in Shanghai and Shenzhen. Jennifer's mouth fell open. Richard looked like he might collapse. That's exactly what Ms. Huang translated. Her translation was accurate, but she softened his phrasing. He's not curious about your property. He's testing whether you have the international sophistication to partner with his organization. Maya paused. "So far, you're failing." Dead silence. Richard turned to his team. They stared back in shock. He turned to Maya. "You've been cleaning rooms." "Yes, sir." "For 4 years." "Yes, sir." "With those qualifications." "The job market hasn't been kind to everyone, Mr. Thornton." Something flickered in Richard's eyes. It might have been shame. Through the glass, Chen was buttoning his jacket. His associates had closed their portfolios, seconds from walking out forever. Richard made a decision. "Come with me." Maya followed him out of the conference room, still wearing her gray uniform, still wearing her sensible shoes. about to walk into a room full of billionaires and prove that the most valuable person in the building had been invisible for 4 years. Chen Weilin was reaching for his briefcase when Richard walked back into the lobby. Chen's expression said everything. The meeting was over. The Grandview had wasted his time. He had no patience for incompetent organizations. He spoke sharply to Ms. Huang. Mr. Chen says he appreciates your hospitality, but believes his time would be better spent with organizations more prepared for international partnership. Richard opened his mouth. Maya spoke first, in Mandarin. Respected Mr. Chen, I apologize for the earlier confusion. I understand your concerns about partners lacking international sophistication. If you allow me a few moments, I can address your questions directly. Chen's head snapped toward Maya. His eyes took in her gray uniform, her practical shoes, her employee badge, then moved to her face, and stayed. He responded in rapid Mandarin. Complex terminology, regional dialect, technical jargon, testing her. Maya didn't hesitate. The recent amendments to Section 721B create significant opportunities for international investors. The tax abatement provisions favor properties incorporating cultural exchange elements, aligning perfectly with Chen Global Holdings' established positioning in cross-cultural hospitality. Chen's eyebrows rose. He asked about zoning ordinances. Maya cited specific codes from memory, compared them to Shanghai and Shenzhen, explained how federal policy changes affected implementation. Chen asked about labor regulations. Maya outlined relevant statutes and implications for international hiring. Chen asked about historical preservation requirements. Maya discussed landmark designation and its impact on renovation. 3 full minutes. Richard stood frozen watching a conversation he couldn't understand transform everything. Chen's body language had completely shifted. Impatience gone. Dismissiveness vanished. He was leaning forward now, asking questions with genuine curiosity. Ms. Huang watched with undisguised surprise. 8 years with Chen. She had rarely seen him engage so directly with anyone outside his inner circle. Finally, Chen turned to Richard and spoke in perfect English. Mr. Thornton, your hotel appears to have resources I had not anticipated. Richard's jaw dropped. Yes, Ms. Richardson is a valuable member of our team. Chen's gaze returned to Maya. Ms. Richardson, tell me about yourself. Every eye in the lobby focused on her, the executives watching from distance, security trying not to stare, Chen's associates in expensive suits, and Richard Thornton, whose entire worldview was collapsing. Maya straightened her shoulders. My name is Maya Richardson. Bachelor's degree in International Relations from Columbia University. Master's degree in East Asian Linguistics and International Business from Beijing University. 6 years in China. Fluent in Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese. She paused. I'm currently employed as housekeeping staff at the Grandview Hotel. The silence was deafening. Chen studied her for a long moment. A master's from Beijing University, and you clean rooms? The job market has not been kind to everyone, Mr. Chen. Something shifted in Chen's expression. Recognition. Understanding. No, he said quietly. It has not. He turned to Richard. Mr. Thornton, we will continue this meeting. One condition. Richard nodded eagerly. Anything. Ms. Richardson joins us, not as translator, as participant. Richard hesitated 1 second, then looked at Maya, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in 4 years. Of course, follow me. Maya walked toward the executive conference room. Gray uniform, sensible shoes, the weight of 4 years of invisibility lifting with every step. Behind her, she heard one of Chen's associates whisper to another in Mandarin. Who is that woman? Chen's response was barely audible. Someone they should have seen long ago. Maya caught her reflection in a polished pillar as she passed. The woman staring back looked exactly the same as that morning. Same uniform, same badge, same practical ponytail. But her eyes were different. For the first time in 4 years, Maya Richardson was no longer invisible, and she was just getting started. The conference room doors closed behind them. Maya felt every pair of eyes tracking her movement across the room. The polished mahogany table stretched 15 feet long. Chen's associates had already taken their seats on one side. Richard's executive team filed in behind their expressions, a mixture of confusion and barely concealed resentment. Richard pulled out a chair at the head of the table. Mr. Chen, please, let's begin properly. Chen ignored him. His attention remained fixed on Maya. Ms. Richardson, sit here. He gestured to the chair directly across from him, the seat that should have belonged to Richard's second-in-command. Jennifer Walsh's face tightened. That was her chair. Maya hesitated for just a moment. Then she walked to the seat and sat down. Richard cleared his throat. Perhaps we should start with our presentation. We've prepared comprehensive materials covering... I have no interest in your presentation, Mr. Thornton. Chen's voice was calm but final. I have seen hundreds of presentations. They all say the same things: projected revenue, market analysis, growth potential, numbers anyone can fabricate. He leaned back in his chair. What I cannot fabricate is what I witnessed in your lobby 5 minutes ago. A woman with a master's degree from one of China's most prestigious universities, working as a housekeeper, in your hotel, for 4 years. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Richard shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Chen, I assure you this was simply an oversight in our human resources. An oversight. Chen's eyebrows rose slightly. Is that what you call it? We have over 300 employees. It's impossible to personally review every... I have over 12,000 employees, Mr. Thornton. I know exactly which ones hold advanced degrees, which ones speak multiple languages, which ones are operating below their potential. Chen turned to Maya. Tell me, Ms. Richardson, when you applied to this hotel 4 years ago, did you include your educational background on your application? Yes, Mr. Chen. Page 2. Full details of my degrees, my language certifications, and my international experience. And no one contacted you about positions more suitable to your qualifications? No one, Mr. Chen. Not once in 4 years. Not once. Chen nodded slowly. He turned back to Richard. Mr. Thornton, I am going to ask you a question. I want you to answer honestly. Richard straightened in his chair. Of course. Did you read Ms. Richardson's application before hiring her? The silence stretched for 3 seconds. 4. 5. I don't personally review housekeeping applications, Richard finally said. That's handled by the department managers. So the answer is no. The answer is that we have processes in place. The answer is no. Chen's voice hardened. You did not read her application. You did not know her qualifications. You saw a black woman applying for a housekeeping position, and you assumed that was all she was capable of. Richard's face flushed red. That's not fair. That's not what happened. Then explain to me how it happened. Explain how a woman with credentials that exceed half the people in this room spent 4 years cleaning your toilets. No one spoke. Maya watched Richard struggle. Part of her felt something she hadn't expected. Sympathy. Not for his situation, but for the realization slowly dawning on his face. The understanding that everything he believed about his own fairness, his own meritocracy, was crumbling. Mr. Chen? Maya's voice broke the silence. Perhaps we could return to your original questions. You were asking about the tax implications of Section 721B. Chen studied her for a moment, then he nodded. Yes, let us discuss business. But Ms. Richardson, I want you to lead this discussion, not translate. Lead. Richard opened his mouth to object. Chen silenced him with a look. Mr. Thornton, you may listen and learn. Perhaps you will discover other talents hiding in your organization. For the next 45 minutes, Maya did something she hadn't done in 4 years. She used her education. She walked Chen through the complexities of New York's foreign investment regulations, comparing them to similar frameworks in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. She explained how recent federal policy changes would affect repatriation of profits. She outlined strategies for structuring the acquisition to maximize tax efficiency while maintaining compliance with both American and Chinese requirements. Chen's associates took furious notes. Ms. Huang watched with growing respect. Richard sat in stunned silence, watching a woman he had dismissed as invisible demonstrate expertise that surpassed his entire legal and financial team. The key consideration, Maya continued in Mandarin, is the cultural exchange provision in Section 721B, subsection 4. Properties that demonstrate commitment to cross-cultural programming receive an additional 15% tax abatement for the first 5 years. Given Chen Global Holdings' existing portfolio of culturally integrated properties, the Grandview could be positioned as your flagship American cultural exchange venue. Chen leaned forward. This provision, I have not heard of it before. It was added in the last legislative session. Only 3 properties in Manhattan have successfully qualified so far. I've studied each of their applications. How? Maya paused. The question beneath the question was clear. I've spent the last 4 years preparing for a position that never came, Mr. Chen. I read every relevant regulation, every policy update, every industry publication. I studied successful international hotel acquisitions across 15 countries. I analyzed what worked and what failed. She met his eyes directly. I had a lot of time to prepare. Housekeeping shifts end at 3. Libraries stay open until 9. Something shifted in Chen's expression, something that went beyond professional interest. You did all this while cleaning rooms? Yes. Why? Maya considered the question carefully. Because I refused to believe that this was the end of my story. Because my mother worked 2 jobs to put me through college, and I couldn't accept that her sacrifice would amount to me making beds for the rest of my life. Because somewhere inside me, despite 300 rejection letters, I still believed that preparation meets opportunity. Eventually. Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer. More personal. My father was a fisherman in Fujian province. He could not read or write. When I told him I wanted to build hotels, he laughed. He said, "Fishermen's sons do not build hotels. They catch fish until they die." Chen's associates shifted uncomfortably. They had never heard this story. I built my first hotel with borrowed money and no formal education. Everyone told me I would fail. Bankers, investors, my own family. They looked at me and saw a fisherman's son who didn't know his place. He looked directly at Maya. "I know what it means to be underestimated, Ms. Richardson. I know what it means to prepare for opportunities that everyone else believes will never come." The connection between them was palpable. Richard watched the exchange with a growing sense of displacement. This meeting had completely escaped his control. The most important negotiation of his career was happening in a language he couldn't understand between a billionaire and a woman he had ordered removed from the building. "Mr. Chen," Richard's voice cracked slightly, "perhaps we could discuss the specific terms of your potential investment." Chen turned to him as if remembering he existed. "Yes, let us discuss terms." He opened his leather portfolio and withdrew a single sheet of paper. "I came to this meeting prepared to make an offer of $150 million for a 49% stake in the Grandview." Richard's eyes widened. $150 million was more than they had hoped for. "That is very generous, Mr. Chen. I'm sure we can—" "That offer is no longer on the table." Richard's face went white. "What? What I witnessed today has changed my assessment of this property. Not the building, not the location, not the financial projections, the leadership." Chen set down the paper. "I am now prepared to offer $200 million. Richard blinked. 200? That's 50 million more than for 60% ownership, and one condition. What condition? Chen looked at Maya. Ms. Richardson receives a position appropriate to her qualifications, immediately, with salary and authority commensurate with her expertise. If you cannot agree to this condition, I walk away. The room went completely still. Jennifer Walsh's face had gone pale. A position appropriate to her qualifications would mean a position above most of the people in this room. The financial controller stared at his hands. The head of legal counsel suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. Richard Thornton sat frozen, calculating the implications of what he had just heard. $200 million for 60%. And the condition that a woman he had dismissed as invisible just 1 hour ago be elevated above people who had worked beside him for years. Mr. Chen, Richard's voice was careful, that's a significant change in terms. I would need to consult with our board before... You have until tomorrow morning. Chen began gathering his materials. I meet with the Roosevelt at noon and the Langford at 3. Both have expressed considerable interest in partnership. He stood. His associates stood with him. I will expect Ms. Richardson to be present at whatever meeting we have next. If she is not... He let the implication hang. Chen walked toward the door. Then he stopped and turned back. One more thing, Mr. Thornton. The next time you order someone removed from a room because of how they look, consider what you might be losing. He switched to Mandarin, addressing Maya directly. Thank you for your expertise today, Ms. Richardson. Regardless of what Mr. Thornton decides, I would like to continue our conversation. My assistant will contact you with my private number. He pressed a black and gold business card into her hand. Then he was gone. The conference room door clicked shut behind him. For 10 full seconds, no one spoke. Then everyone spoke at once. Richard, you can't seriously be considering $200 million is unprecedented. The board will never approve giving that kind of authority to a housekeeper. She's not a housekeeper. She has a master's degree from... That doesn't mean she's qualified to. Did you hear what she said about Section 721B? None of us even knew that provision existed. Richard held up his hand. Silence. He turned to Maya. She stood alone at the end of the table, still holding Chen's business card, still wearing her gray uniform. still surrounded by people who had never seen her until today. "Ms. Richardson?" "Yes, Mr. Thornton." "How long have you worked here?" 4 years, 2 months, and 17 days. "And in that time, did you ever bring your qualifications to anyone's attention?" Maya considered the question. "In my first month, I mentioned my background to my supervisor. She told me to focus on my assigned duties and not to make things complicated. In my 6th month, I saw an internal posting for an assistant position in guest relations. I applied. I was told I didn't have enough hospitality experience." Richard closed his eyes. "Hospitality experience?" "Yes, sir. The hiring manager said my academic credentials were impressive, but they needed someone with practical hotel operations background." "You had been working in the hotel for 6 months?" "Yes, sir." "Doing practical hotel operations?" "Yes, sir." Richard opened his eyes. He looked around the room at his executive team, the people he had trusted, the people who had built their careers on the same assumptions he had. "Everyone out." Jennifer stepped forward. "Richard, everyone out now." One by one, they filed out of the conference room. Jennifer was the last to leave. She shot Maya a look that contained something complicated: resentment, confusion, maybe even grudging respect. The door closed. Richard and Maya stood alone. "Sit down, Ms. Richardson." Maya sat. Richard remained standing. He walked to the window and stared out at the Manhattan skyline. "I've been with this company for 23 years. Started as a bellboy, carried bags, parked cars, did every job nobody else wanted to do." He turned to face her. "I told myself I understood what it meant to work your way up, to be overlooked, to prove yourself. I built my entire management philosophy around the idea that talent rises, that if you work hard enough, people notice." He sat down heavily in his chair. "I was wrong." Maya said nothing. "I walked past you every day. Every single day for 4 years. I never once asked your name. Never once wondered who you were beyond the uniform." He looked at her directly. "I ordered you removed from the lobby today because I didn't want a black woman in a housekeeping uniform visible when Chen arrived. I told myself it was about professionalism, about image, about making the right impression." His voice caught. "But that's not what it was. It was about assumptions I didn't even know I was making, about who belongs where, about what certain people are capable of." Maya felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't what she had expected. Defensiveness, maybe. Excuses. Corporate language designed to minimize and deflect. Not this. Not genuine reckoning. "Mr. Thornton." "Richard, please. After what happened today, I think we can dispense with formalities." "Richard." The name felt strange on her tongue. "I didn't come forward today expecting anything to change. I came forward because I saw an opportunity slipping away, for the hotel, for you, and yes, for myself." "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Maya laughed softly. The sound held no humor. "Have you ever tried to tell someone that you're more than they assume you are? Have you ever watched their eyes glaze over the moment you challenge their expectations? After enough rejection, you learn to stop trying. You learn to make yourself small, to stay invisible, because invisible is safe." Richard nodded slowly. "Chen asked me something in the lobby. He asked how someone with your qualifications ended up cleaning rooms. I didn't have an answer, not one I could say out loud. And now I have to face the answer." Richard leaned forward. "The answer is that we built a system designed to keep people in their place. A system that sees uniforms instead of people, that makes assumptions based on everything except actual capability." He picked up Chen's discarded paper, the offer that was no longer on the table. $200 million. Chen is willing to pay $50 million more than his original offer because of what you demonstrated today, because you showed him something about this hotel's potential that none of my presentations could have shown." Maya waited. "I'm going to accept his terms. All of them. Including the condition about your position. But I'm not doing it because Chen demanded it. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, because you should have been in a position like this years ago, because I failed you and I don't know how to fix that, but I can start here." For the first time since entering the conference room, Maya felt the ground beneath her shift. 4 years of careful detachment, 4 years of protecting herself from hope, and now this. "What position are you offering?" "Director of International Guest Relations." "New title." "We'll create the role specifically for you. You'll oversee all international client services, cultural programming, and language support. You'll report directly to me. Your salary will reflect your qualifications, not your previous position. Maya's throat tightened. That's very generous, Richard. It's not generous. It's overdue. He paused. There's one more thing. Yes. I want you to help me find the others. Maya frowned. The others? The other invisible people. The other Maya Richardsons hiding in housekeeping and maintenance and food service. The people we've been overlooking because we couldn't see past their uniforms. Richard stood and walked back to the window. Chen asked me how this happened, how someone like you ended up cleaning rooms. The honest answer is that I never looked. I never asked. I built a system based on assumptions and called it meritocracy. He turned to face her. I want to build something different, and I need your help. Maya was quiet for a long moment. 4 years ago, she had walked into this hotel broken by rejection. She had accepted the housekeeping position as a temporary measure, a way to survive while she kept trying for something better. Somewhere along the way, temporary had become permanent. Hope had become habit. Dreams had become something she indulged only in the quiet hours after her shift ended. And now this man was offering her everything she had wanted, not because she had asked for it, not because she had fought for it, but because circumstances had finally made her visible. Was that enough? Was that the kind of success she wanted? I need to think about this, Maya heard herself say. Richard nodded. Of course, take the weekend. But Maya, whatever you decide, I want you to know that what happened today changed something for me. Not just about you, about how I see everyone who works in this building. Maya stood. She still had Chen's business card in her hand down it. The black and gold embossing caught the light. Can I ask you something, Richard? Anything. If Chen hadn't demanded my promotion as a condition, would you still be offering it? Richard was quiet for a long moment. I want to say yes. I want to believe I would have done the right thing regardless. But honestly, I don't know. And I think that's the point. I think that's what Chen was trying to show me. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for saving my career today, for saving this hotel, for showing up when every instinct probably told you to stay invisible. Maya walked toward the door. Then she stopped. Richard. Yes. There's a woman named Esperanza in housekeeping. She has a degree in hospitality management from UNLV, and a man named David in the kitchen, former sous chef at a Michelin restaurant in Seoul. He's been washing dishes for 2 years. Richard pulled out his phone. I'm writing this down. And Marcus in maintenance, engineering degree, taught at community college for 12 years. He's been changing light bulbs for 3 years. Marcus, engineering. Got it. Maya opened the door. There are more, dozens more. I've worked beside them for 4 years. I know their stories. She looked back at him. When you're invisible, you notice the other invisible people. It's the only way any of us survive. Then she walked out. Emma Rodriguez was waiting in the hallway. Her face was a complicated mixture of emotions. Shock, confusion, something that might have been pride. Maya, I heard what happened. Everyone's talking about it. Word travels fast. Are you okay? Maya considered the question. I don't know yet. Ask me again tomorrow. Emma stepped closer, lowered her voice. Did Thornton really offer you a director position? He did. And Chen's investment? They're saying it's $200 million because of what you did in there. It's not because of me. It's because Chen saw something that no one else bothered to look for. Emma was quiet for a moment. I tried to tell him you know, this morning. I tried to tell him you spoke Chinese, that you might be able to help. I know. He shut me down, told me housekeepers shouldn't think they can contribute to business meetings. Maya touched Emma's arm gently. You tried, Emma. That's more than most people did. It wasn't enough. No, it wasn't. But that's not your fault. The system wasn't built for people like us to be seen. Emma's eyes glistened. Maya, I've been working here for 11 years. I have a degree too, you know, associates in business administration. Never told anyone because I figured what's the point. Maya looked at her old supervisor, really looked at her for the first time. Emma, Richard is going to be looking for hidden talents across the organization. When that process starts, make sure your name is on the list. You think it would matter? I think it might. Things are changing. Maybe not fast enough. Maybe not far enough. But they're changing. Maya squeezed Emma's arm. I have to go. I need to think. She walked toward the service elevator that had taken her up and down this building thousands of times. The doors opened. She stepped inside. The button panel glowed with floor numbers. She had pressed these buttons so many times she could do it blindfolded. 3rd floor for the executive suites. 5th floor for the conference rooms. 7th floor for the presidential suite. Ground floor for the back exit that housekeeping used. Her finger hovered. Then she pressed L for lobby. The main lobby. The front entrance. Where guests came and went. Where deals were made. Where important people walked with purpose and confidence. Where she had been invisible for 4 years. The doors opened. Maya stepped out into the marble expanse she had mopped and polished hundreds of times. The afternoon sun slanted through the massive windows. The chandeliers sparkled overhead. The ambient music played softly in the background. Everything looked exactly the same as it had that morning. But nothing was the same. Maya Richardson walked straight through the center of the lobby, past the front desk, past the concierge station, past the spot where she had stood with her cleaning cart just hours ago watching a billionaire walk through the doors. A few staff members recognized her. Their eyes went wide. Whispers followed in her wake. She pushed through the front doors and stepped onto 5th Avenue. The city roared around her, taxis honking, people rushing, the endless energy of Manhattan in the late afternoon. Maya stood on the sidewalk and breathed. In her pocket, Chen's business card pressed against her hip. In her mind, Richard's offer echoed on repeat. Director of International Guest Relations, a salary that would finally let her breathe, a chance to use everything she had spent years learning, everything she had ever wanted. So why did she feel so complicated about accepting it? Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Ms. Richardson, this is Weilin Chen. I would like to invite you to dinner tomorrow evening to discuss your future. My assistant will send details. Please do not make any decisions about Mr. Thornton's offer until we speak. Maya stared at the message. Then another text came through. The fisherman's son recognizes another outsider. We have much to discuss. Maya looked up at the building behind her. 15 stories of glass and steel, 4 years of her life. And now 2 different paths forward. One inside these walls transforming the system that had made her invisible. One outside with a man who had built empires by defying everyone who underestimated him. Maya Richardson had spent 4 years waiting to be seen. Now she had been seen by everyone, and the choice of what to do next was entirely hers. She started walking. She didn't know where she was going yet, but for the first time in 4 years she was walking forward. Not invisible, not small, not waiting for permission to exist, just walking. And the whole city stretched out before her full of possibilities she had almost stopped believing in. Her phone buzzed again. Her mother. Baby, someone from your hotel just called, said you did something incredible today. Said they want to talk about a promotion. What happened? Call me. Maya smiled. Mama had worked double shifts for 18 years to give her daughter a chance at a better life. Today, that chance had finally arrived. Maya lifted the phone to her ear. Mama, you're not going to believe what happened. And standing on 5th Avenue, still wearing her gray housekeeping uniform, Maya Richardson began to tell the story that would change everything. The call with her mother lasted 47 minutes. Maya sat on a bench in Central Park, still wearing her gray uniform, watching the sun sink behind the Manhattan skyline, while her mother's voice crackled through the phone. Say that again, baby. Say it slow so I understand. Mama, the billionaire from China. He refused to do business with the hotel until they promoted me. $200 million. Contingent on giving me a director position. Silence on the other end. Then her mother started crying. Mama, don't cry. I'm not crying. I'm sitting here thinking about all those nights, all those double shifts, all those times I came home so tired I could barely see straight. And I'm thinking about you in that little apartment studying Chinese until 3 in the morning. And I'm thinking about every single person who told you no. Her mother's voice broke. 317, baby. You counted. I know you counted. And now this. Maya felt her own eyes burning. Mama, I haven't decided yet. There's another offer. Chen wants to meet me for dinner tomorrow. He might want to recruit me for his own company. His own company, the Billionaire. Yes? So you got 2 offers in 1 day after 4 years of nothing. That's what happened. Her mother laughed through her tears. Lord have mercy. The universe got a sense of humor, doesn't it? Maya smiled despite herself. It really does. What you gonna do, baby? I don't know yet. I need to think. You need to pray. Mama. I'm serious. You've been carrying this weight for so long. You've been pushing so hard. Maybe it's time to stop pushing and start listening. The answer's already there. You just gotta get quiet enough to hear it. Maya closed her eyes. Her mother had always believed in signs and prayers and divine timing. Maya had stopped believing in anything except hard work and persistence. But sitting on that bench, watching the sky turn orange and pink, she wondered if maybe her mother was right. Maybe the answer was already there. She just couldn't see it yet. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. I've been proud of you since the day you were born. Nothing changes that. Not some fancy job, not some billionaire, nothing." Gabby. Maya hung up and sat in the gathering darkness. Her phone showed 7:43 p.m. 24 hours ago, she had been invisible. Now she had to decide what kind of visible she wanted to be. The next morning, Maya woke at 5:00 a.m. She hadn't slept well. Dreams of conference rooms and Chinese billionaires in gray uniforms had chased her through the night. Her apartment was small, a studio in Washington Heights that she could barely afford even on her housekeeping salary. Student loan payments ate 40% of her income. The rest went to rent, food, and the occasional book on international business that she read during her lunch breaks. The irony had never been lost on her. Thousands of dollars in education, a prestigious degree, and she lived like a college student at 34. Maya showered and dressed in her work uniform out of habit. Then she caught herself. Richard had told her to take the weekend, to think about his offer. She didn't have to work today. For the first time in 4 years, she had nowhere she was required to be. The freedom felt strange, almost uncomfortable. She changed into regular clothes. Jeans, a simple blouse. The kind of clothes she rarely wore because her life was divided between her uniform and her pajamas. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Ms. Richardson, this is Mr. Chen's assistant. He would like to confirm dinner at 7:00 p.m. this evening. The location is Jingfang in Chinatown. Mr. Chen prefers authentic establishments over hotel restaurants. Please confirm your attendance." Maya stared at the message. Jingfang. She knew the place. A massive dim sum hall that had been a Chinatown institution for decades. Not the kind of place a billionaire typically chose for a business dinner. That told her something about Chen. She typed back, "Confirmed, I will be there." The response came immediately. "Mr. Chen looks forward to your conversation. He asks that you come with an open mind and empty hands. This is not a negotiation. This is a conversation between two people who understand what it means to be underestimated." Maya read the message 3 times. Empty hands. Not a negotiation. A conversation. She didn't know what to make of it. At 9:00 a.m. her phone rang. Richard Thornton. Maya hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Richardson, I hope I'm not calling too early." "You're not. I wanted to check in, see how you're processing everything that happened yesterday." "I'm still processing, Richard." "Of course, take all the time you need." He paused. "I also wanted to let you know that I've already started the process you suggested, looking at our employee records, reviewing applications for overlooked qualifications." Maya sat up straighter. "Already?" "I couldn't sleep last night. Kept thinking about what you said. About the other invisible people. The ones we never bothered to see." His voice was heavy. "I pulled 50 files this morning, housekeeping, maintenance, kitchen staff, food service, and I found 11 employees with college degrees working in entry-level positions, 3 with advanced degrees, 2 who speak 3 or more languages." Maya closed her eyes. 11. "That's just the first 50 files, Maya. We have over 300 employees." "I know. How long have you known about these people?" 4 years. I've worked beside them, eaten lunch with them, listened to their stories during breaks." "Why didn't anyone ever say anything?" Maya's laugh held no humor. "Richard, you told Emma yesterday that housekeepers shouldn't think they can contribute to business meetings. That's the message every invisible person in your hotel has received 1,000 times. Why would anyone speak up when speaking up gets you dismissed?" Richard was quiet for a long moment. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do." "I'm trying to change, Maya. I know one day doesn't fix 23 years of blindness, but I'm trying." Maya softened slightly. "I know you are. Have you made a decision about the position?" "Not yet. I'm meeting with Chen tonight." The line went silent. "Chen?" "He invited me to dinner. He wants to talk about opportunities with his organization." Richard's voice tightened. "Maya, I hope you'll consider staying with us. What you did yesterday. You belong at the Grandview. You could help us build something different. Something better." "I'll consider everything, Richard. That's all I can promise right now." "Fair enough. Just Please let me know before you make any final decisions. I don't want to lose you to Chen without at least having a chance to make our case." "You'll hear from me, I promise." Maya hung up and stared at her phone. Two powerful men, two different paths, and a choice that would define the rest of her career. At noon, Maya took the subway downtown. She didn't have a specific destination. She just needed to move, to think. The train was crowded with weekend travelers, families heading to museums, couples going to lunch, young people laughing and taking selfies. Maya found a seat in the corner and watched them all. Invisible even now. Nobody on this train knew what had happened yesterday. Nobody knew that the woman in the simple blouse and jeans had stood in a conference room and changed the trajectory of a $200 million deal. That was the thing about being invisible. It didn't end just because one person finally saw you. The train stopped at Canal Street. Maya got off and walked toward Chinatown. She had hours before her dinner with Chen. But something drew her to walk these streets, to hear the familiar sounds of Mandarin and Cantonese mixing with English, to smell the restaurants and bakeries that reminded her of her years in Beijing. A vendor called out to her in Cantonese, offering fresh produce. Maya responded in kind, complimenting his selection. The vendor's eyes widened with surprise. Then he smiled broadly and began chatting with her about the weather, the prices, his grandchildren in Hong Kong. This was what Maya had missed most about China. The easy connection that came with shared language. The way barriers fell when you could speak to someone in their mother tongue. For 10 minutes, she wasn't a former housekeeper weighing 2 job offers. She was just a woman having a conversation with a fruit vendor who treated her like an old friend. When she finally said goodbye, he pressed 2 oranges into her hands. "For luck," he said in Cantonese. "You have a kind face, good things are coming." Maya walked away with tears in her eyes. Good things. After 4 years of waiting, maybe good things were finally here. At 6:45 p.m., Maya arrived at Jingfang. The restaurant was exactly as she remembered from visits years ago. Massive. Loud. Families crowded around circular tables while dim sum carts rolled past in endless streams. Not the kind of place a billionaire typically conducted business. But Chen Weilin was not a typical billionaire. Maya gave her name to the hostess who led her through the main hall to a private room in the back. Chen was already there. He sat alone at a round table set for 2. No associates, no Miss Huang, no entourage, just a man in a simple gray sweater drinking tea. He stood when she entered. "Ms. Richardson, thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Chen. Please, call me Wei Lin. Tonight we are not business partners or potential employer and employee. Tonight we are just 2 people sharing a meal." Maya sat across from him. The private room was quieter than the main hall, but the sounds of the restaurant still filtered through. Families laughing, children crying, the clatter of dishes. "I chose this place deliberately," Chen said, pouring her tea. "Do you know why? Because it's authentic. Because my first meal in America was in this restaurant. 32 years ago, I had $17 in my pocket and no English. A waiter took pity on me and brought me food without being asked. I have never forgotten that kindness." Maya accepted the tea. "I didn't know you lived in America." "For 3 years, working construction, washing dishes, learning English from television." Chen smiled. "Not so different from your journey, perhaps. Just in reverse. You built an empire after washing dishes. And you maintained an empire while cleaning rooms. The difference is opportunity, not capability." A server entered with the first round of dim sum. Har Gao, Siu Mai, Char Siu Bao. Chen served her before taking anything for himself. "Tell me about Beijing," he said. "Tell me about your years there, not the academic achievements. Tell me what you loved." Maya paused with her chopsticks halfway to her mouth. No one had ever asked her that question. Not the interviewers who dismissed her experience. Not the hiring managers who couldn't see past her resume. Not even her mother who understood the sacrifice but not the joy. "The mornings," Maya said slowly. "I loved the mornings. The way the city woke up, the smell of John Bing from street vendors, the old people doing Tai Chi in the parks, the chaos and order existing together." Chen nodded. "What else?" "The language, the way Mandarin forced me to think differently, the tones that changed meaning completely, the characters that told stories in single brushstrokes. I fell in love with the language before I fell in love with the country. And the people." Maya's eyes grew distant. "There was a woman, Mrs. Liu. She ran a small restaurant near my apartment. Every morning she made me breakfast and corrected my pronunciation. Every evening she taught me phrases they don't teach in textbooks. She called me her American daughter." Her voice caught. "When I left Beijing, she cried at the airport. She gave me a jade pendant and told me to remember where I had become myself. I wear it every day." Maya touched her chest where the pendant hung beneath her blouse. Chen watched her with an expression she couldn't read. "This is why I invited you tonight," he said finally. "Not to recruit you, not to negotiate terms, but to understand who you are beyond the degrees and the languages and the impressive qualifications." "I don't understand." "Ms. Richardson, Maya, I have built my company on a simple principle. Skills can be taught. Knowledge can be acquired. But character is fixed. You either have it or you don't." He set down his chopsticks. "Yesterday I watched you step into a room full of people who had dismissed you. People who had made you invisible for 4 years. You could have been bitter. You could have demanded recognition. You could have humiliated them the way they had humiliated you." "That's not who I am." "Exactly. That is exactly my point." Chen leaned forward. "You showed grace under circumstances that would have broken most people. You demonstrated expertise without arrogance. You commanded respect without demanding it." He paused. "I have met thousands of qualified people in my career. Brilliant minds, impressive credentials. But qualification without character is worthless, and character like yours is rare." Maya felt her face flush. "Mr. Chen, Wei Lin, I appreciate your words, but I still don't understand what you're asking me." Chen smiled. "I am asking you to consider a different kind of opportunity. Not a job, not a position, a partnership." Maya's chopsticks clattered against her plate. "Partnership. Chen Global Holdings is expanding our American operations significantly over the next 5 years. We are acquiring properties, yes, but we are also building something new. A hospitality training institute focused on cross-cultural excellence. A place where people like you, like me, like anyone who has been underestimated can develop their talents and find meaningful careers." Chen's eyes burned with intensity. "I want you to help me build it. Not as an employee, as a partner. With equity, with decision-making authority, with the power to shape something that could change thousands of lives." Maya couldn't speak. Partnership, equity, the power to build something from nothing. "I know this is not what you expected," Chen continued. "I know Mr. Thornton has offered you a position at the Grandview. A good position, a safe position. And there's nothing wrong with safety." He paused. "But I do not think you are someone who wants safety, Maya Richardson. I think you are someone who has been waiting for a chance to build something, to matter, to use everything you have learned and everything you have suffered to create change." Maya's mind raced. 24 hours ago, she had been mopping floors. Now a billionaire was offering her partnership in an enterprise that could transform the hospitality industry. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you understand something that most successful people forget. You understand invisibility. You understand what it means to have skills that no one values. You understand the waste that happens when organizations see uniforms instead of people." Chen stood and walked to the window. "I could hire consultants from McKinsey and Harvard Business School. I could recruit executives from every major hotel chain in the world. They would bring expertise and connections and impressive resumes." He turned back to face her. "But they would not bring what you bring. They have never been invisible. They do not know what we know." Maya sat in silence, processing everything. Partnership, a training institute, the chance to help people like her, like Esperanza, like David, like Marcus. People whose talents were buried under assumptions and uniforms and systems designed to keep them in their place. "I need time," Maya said finally. This is more than I expected." "Of course, take whatever time you need. But Maya..." Chen sat back down across from her. "Whatever you decide, I want you to know something. What happened yesterday was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the inevitable result of 4 years of preparation meeting one moment of opportunity." He reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "You made yourself ready. The opportunity came. That is not luck. That is destiny." Maya looked at the billionaire's hand covering hers. Rough skin, calluses, the hands of someone who had washed dishes and laid bricks before building empires. "My father used to say something," Chen continued. "He said the ocean does not care who your parents were. The fish do not care about your education. The waves do not care about your dreams. All that matters is whether you can survive the storm." He squeezed her hand gently. "You have survived many storms, Maya Richardson. Now it is time to sail." They talked for 3 more hours. Chen told her about his childhood in Fujian province, the poverty that drove him to leave everything he knew, the years of struggle in America before he returned to China with nothing but determination and a vision. Maya told him about Brooklyn, about her mother's sacrifice, about the professors who believed in her and the employers who didn't, about the nights she cried herself to sleep, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake pursuing education that no one seemed to value. By the time they finished, the restaurant was nearly empty. Chen insisted on walking her to the subway station. "One more thing," he said as they stood at the entrance to the Canal Street platform. "Tomorrow morning I am meeting with Mr. Thornton to finalize the acquisition terms. I would like you to be there." At the meeting, yes, not as an employee of the Grandview, not as a potential partner of Chen Global Holdings, simply as yourself, as someone whose perspective I value. Maya hesitated. Richard might see that as complicated. Mr. Thornton will see whatever he chooses to see. What matters is what you see, what you learn, what you decide. Chen handed her a slim folder. This is the preliminary proposal for the Training Institute. The mission, the structure, the timeline. Read it tonight. Bring questions tomorrow. Maya took the folder. Wei Lin? Yes. Why are you doing all this? You could hire anyone, partner with anyone. Why invest so much in someone you met yesterday? Chen smiled. Because 32 years ago, a waiter in that restaurant gave me food when I had nothing. He did not know who I was. He did not know what I would become. He simply saw a hungry young man and chose to help. His eyes glistened. I have spent 32 years trying to repay that kindness, not to him. He died years ago, but to the world, to every hungry young person who needs someone to see their potential. He placed his hand on Maya's shoulder. Yesterday I saw your potential. Today I choose to help. That is all. That is everything. Maya watched him walk away into the Chinatown night. The folder in her hands felt heavier than paper. It felt like possibility. It felt like a future she had stopped believing in. She descended into the subway station, her mind churning with everything Chen had said. Partnership, building something new, changing thousands of lives. The train arrived. Maya stepped on, found a seat, and opened the folder. The first page was a mission statement. The Chen Institute for Cross-Cultural Excellence exists to identify, develop, and elevate talent that traditional systems overlook. We believe that potential is universal, but opportunity is not. Our mission is to change that equation. Maya read it 3 times. Then she turned to the next page. Financial projections. Organizational structure. A list of potential locations across the United States and Asia. And at the bottom, a single line that made her breath catch. Founding partner and director of North American operations, position reserved. Reserved. For her. Chen had already written her into his vision, before she had agreed to anything, before she had made any decision. He had seen her future before she could see it herself. Maya closed the folder and stared out the subway window at the darkness rushing past. 2 offers. 2 paths. 1 choice that would define everything. The train reached her stop. Maya walked the 3 blocks to her apartment on autopilot, her mind far away. She climbed the stairs to her floor and stopped dead. Someone was sitting outside her door. A woman in her 50s. Well-dressed. Familiar face? Jennifer Walsh. Richard's head of guest services. The woman whose chair Maya had taken in the conference room. Jennifer stood when she saw Maya approaching. Ms. Richardson, I hope you don't mind. I got your address from HR. I know it's inappropriate, but I needed to speak with you, privately. Maya's guard went up immediately. It's late, Ms. Walsh. I know, I'm sorry. I needed you to understand something before you make your decision about Richard's offer. What's that? Jennifer's composure cracked slightly. I've worked at the Grandview for 15 years. I started as a front desk clerk. I worked my way up. Every promotion, every advancement, I earned it. I'm sure you did. And then you walked into that conference room yesterday, in a housekeeping uniform, and in 1 hour you did something I couldn't do in 15 years. You impressed Chen Wei-lin so much that he restructured his entire offer around you. Maya said nothing. I was angry, Jennifer continued. I'll admit it, I was furious. I thought, who is this woman? Who does she think she is? And now Jennifer's eyes met Maya's. Now I've spent the last 24 hours thinking about how you ended up in that uniform in the first place. About how someone with your qualifications spent 4 years cleaning rooms in a building full of people with half your talent. She swallowed hard. I reviewed your original application, Maya, the one from 4 years ago. Do you know who rejected it for guest services? Who wrote not enough hospitality experience and routed you to housekeeping instead? Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Who? Jennifer's voice dropped to a whisper. Me. I rejected your application. I didn't even read past the first page. I saw where you went to school and assumed you were overqualified and wouldn't stay. I figured you'd be gone in 6 months anyway, so why invest in training? The confession hung in the air between them. I made you invisible, Maya. Not Richard, not the system. Me. I looked at your application and made a decision in 30 seconds that cost you 4 years of your life. Maya stood motionless, processing the revelation. 4 years. Because one woman had made an assumption in 30 seconds. Why are you telling me this? Jennifer wiped her eyes. Because you deserve to know the truth before you decide anything. Because I need you to understand that when Richard talks about the system failing you, he doesn't know the whole story. I do, and I've been carrying this guilt since yesterday afternoon. Maya leaned against the wall. 4 years of rejection, 4 years of invisibility, 4 years of wondering what was wrong with her, what she could have done differently, why no one would give her a chance. And it came down to 30 seconds and one woman's assumption. What do you want from me, Jennifer? Jennifer looked at her with something that might have been desperation. I want you to stay, at the Grandview. I want you to take the position Richard offered, not because you owe us anything, but because if you leave, if you go with Chen, nothing changes. The same system keeps running. The same assumptions keep being made. She stepped closer. But if you stay, if you become Director of International Guest Relations, you'll have power. Real power. Power to change how we hire, how we evaluate, how we see people. Jennifer's voice cracked. I can't undo what I did 4 years ago, but maybe if you stay, we can make sure I never do it to anyone else. Maya studied the woman standing before her. Yesterday's adversary, today's confessor, tomorrow's colleague partner in reform, or just another person whose guilt would fade as soon as Maya was no longer in front of her. Go home, Jennifer, it's late. But, I heard you, I understand, but this decision is mine to make, not yours, not Richard's, mine. Jennifer nodded slowly. You're right, I'm sorry, She gathered herself. Whatever you decide, I want you to know I'm going to do better. Whether you're there to see it or not, I'm going to do better. She walked past Maya toward the stairs. Then she stopped. Maya. Yes. For what it's worth. You were magnificent yesterday. Watching you in that conference room, it was like watching someone finally step into who they were always meant to be. Then she was gone. Maya unlocked her apartment door and stepped inside. She dropped Chen's folder on her tiny kitchen table. She sat in the darkness without turning on the lights. 4 years. 30 seconds. One assumption. The weight of it pressed down on her chest. All those nights wondering what was wrong with her. All those mornings putting on the gray uniform and telling herself it was temporary. All those rejection letters she blamed on a broken system. And it came down to Jennifer Walsh spending 30 seconds on her application. Maya laughed. The sound was hollow, bitter. Then the laughter turned to something else. Tears. 4 years of tears she had held back. 4 years of grief for the career she should have had. 4 years of pain she had packed away in order to survive. It all came out in that dark apartment. Maya cried until she had nothing left. Then she washed her face, made herself tea, and opened Chen's folder again. The mission statement stared back at her. We believe that potential is universal, but opportunity is not. Our mission is to change that equation. Maya thought about Jennifer Walsh, about the 30 seconds that had changed everything, about all the other Jennifers in all the other companies making the same decisions every day, and she thought about what Chen had said, about building something new, about changing thousands of lives, about using everything she had learned and suffered to create change. Maya picked up her phone. It was 11:47 p.m. She typed a message to Chen. I'll be at the meeting tomorrow, and I have questions about the Institute. Many questions. The response came immediately. I expected nothing less. Sleep well, Maya Richardson. Tomorrow we begin. Maya set down her phone and looked out her window at the city lights. Tomorrow everything would change. She didn't know which path she would choose yet, but for the first time in 4 years, both paths led somewhere she wanted to go, and that she realized was the most remarkable thing of all. Not the offers, not the money, not the opportunities. The remarkable thing was hope. After 4 years of surviving, Maya Richardson was finally ready to live. Maya arrived at the Grandview at 8:47 a.m. She had not slept. The conversation with Jennifer played on loop in her mind all night. 30 seconds, one assumption, 4 years erased. But something else had happened in those sleepless hours. Clarity. Maya walked through the lobby entrance for the first time as something other than invisible. She wore a navy blazer she had bought 3 years ago for interviews that never went anywhere. Underneath the jade pendant from Mrs. Liu pressed against her chest, the security guard did a double take. "Ms. Richardson, I almost didn't recognize you without the uniform." He had the decency to look embarrassed. "You look different. Good different." "Thank you, James." His eyes widened. "You know my name." "I've known your name for 4 years. You've worked the morning shift since before I started. You have a daughter in middle school. She wants to be a veterinarian." James stared at her. "How did you... We've never really talked." "Invisible people notice things, James. We just don't always speak." She walked past him toward the elevators, leaving him standing motionless in her wake. The executive floor was quiet at this hour. Maya stepped off the elevator and found Richard waiting. He looked like he hadn't slept either, dark circles under his eyes. Tie slightly crooked, hair not quite as perfect as usual. "Maya, you're early." "I wanted to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "Whatever happens next." Richard studied her face. Something had changed since their last conversation. He could see it, but couldn't name it. "Chen arrives at 9. His legal team is already in the conference room reviewing documents." He paused. "I didn't expect you to actually come." "You invited me." "Chen invited you. I wasn't sure what that meant. For the meeting, for the negotiation." Maya looked at him directly. "It means I'm here to observe, to learn, to decide what kind of future I want." "And have you decided?" "Not yet, but I'm closer than I was yesterday." Richard nodded slowly. "Jennifer called me last night. She told me what she confessed to you." Maya's expression didn't change. "How do you feel about that? Angry at her, at myself, at a system I built that made her decisions seem normal?" Richard ran a hand through his hair. 4 years, Maya. She cost you 4 years with a 30-second decision, and I never even knew it happened." "Would it have changed anything if you had known?" Richard opened his mouth to say yes. Then he stopped. "I want to say yes. I want to believe I would have intervened, that I would have looked at your application myself, that I would have done the right thing." He met her eyes. "But honestly, probably not. I trusted my managers to make those decisions. I never questioned them, never audited their choices, never asked how many qualified people we might be losing to assumptions and shortcuts." Maya appreciated his honesty. It was becoming a pattern with Richard, painful honesty that seemed to hurt him more than it hurt her. "That's why Jennifer's confession matters," Maya said. "Not because it changes the past, but because it exposes the system. A system where one person's 30-second assumption can derail another person's entire career. And that's what you want to change." "That's what I need to change, whether I do it here or somewhere else." Richard's phone buzzed. "Chen just pulled up. 5 minutes." Maya straightened her blazer. "Then let's go." The conference room felt different this morning. 2 days ago, Maya had entered this space in a gray uniform, desperate to save a meeting she had no business attending. Today, she walked in as an invited guest, an equal, a person whose opinion mattered enough to reshape a $200 million deal. Chen's legal team occupied one side of the table. 4 lawyers in expensive suits surrounded by documents and laptops. Richard's team occupied the other side. Jennifer was there, avoiding Maya's eyes. The financial controller, the head of legal, 2 board members who had flown in overnight. And at the head of the table, an empty chair, waiting for Chen. Maya chose a seat near the window, not with Richard's team, not with Chen's team. Neutral ground. Jennifer glanced at her, then quickly looked away. The guilt on her face was almost painful to witness. At exactly 9:00 a.m., Chen Wei-lin entered. He wore the same simple style as the night before. Dark sweater, no tie. The understated confidence of a man who had nothing to prove. His eyes found Maya immediately. He nodded once. Then he took his seat at the head of the table. "Mr. Thornton, thank you for accommodating this meeting on short notice." "Of course, Mr. Chen. We're eager to finalize terms." "I'm sure you are." Chen's voice held a note of something Maya couldn't quite identify. "Before we proceed with the legal formalities, I have an announcement." The room went still. "As you know, my original offer was $150 million for 49% of the Grandview. After Friday's events, I increased that offer to $200 million for 60% contingent on certain conditions." Richard nodded carefully. "I am withdrawing that offer." The words dropped like a bomb. Richard's face went white. Withdrawing Mr. Chen, if this is about the translation issues, I assure you we've already begun implementing. This is not about translation issues, Mr. Thornton. Chen opened his leather portfolio. This is about something that came to my attention last night. Something that changes my assessment of this organization fundamentally. He withdrew a single sheet of paper. My team conducted a routine background check on key personnel involved in this acquisition. Standard procedure? Nothing unusual? He slid the paper across the table toward Richard. Except we discovered something very unusual indeed. Richard picked up the paper. His hands were trembling. Maya watched his face as he read. The color drained completely. This can't be right. I assure you it is. We verified it through 3 independent sources. What is it? Jennifer asked, unable to contain herself. Richard didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the document as if he could make the words disappear through sheer will. Chen spoke instead. 3 years ago, Mr. Thornton received an offer from the Landmark Hotel Group, a significant promotion, substantial salary increase, his dream position. Maya saw Richard's shoulders stiffen. He declined that offer. Do you know why, Ms. Walsh? Jennifer shook her head. Because accepting it would have required him to disclose certain financial irregularities he had discovered in the Grandview's accounting, irregularities he chose to cover up rather than report. The room erupted. That's absurd, the financial controller sputtered. We've been audited every year, one of the board members protested. Where's your evidence? The legal counsel demanded. Chen held up his hand. The evidence is in Mr. Thornton's hands. 5 years of falsified maintenance reports that inflated property values by approximately $18 million. Reports that Mr. Thornton signed personally. Every eye turned to Richard. He sat motionless, staring at the paper, not denying, not defending, just sitting. Richard, Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. Is this true? The silence stretched for 5 seconds. 10, 15. Then Richard Thornton did something Maya had never expected. He laughed. The sound was hollow, bitter. The laugh of a man watching everything he had built crumble to dust. You know what's funny, Klutz? Richard said to no one in particular. I spent 23 years climbing, sacrificing, doing whatever it took, and the thing that's going to bring me down isn't the fraud. It's an invisible woman in a gray uniform who finally got seen. He looked at Chen. How did you find out the records were buried? The auditors never caught it. The board never suspected. Ms. Richardson mentioned something during our dinner last night. She said she had spent 4 years studying successful international hotel acquisitions. She mentioned that properties with artificially inflated maintenance histories often showed specific patterns in their depreciation schedules. Chen turned to Maya. I asked my forensic accountants to take a closer look. They found the patterns in less than 6 hours. Maya's blood ran cold. She had given Chen the thread. Without knowing it, she had handed him the key to unraveling Richard Thornton's entire career. You used me, she said quietly. No. Chen's voice was firm. I listened to you. There is a difference. You demonstrated expertise that exposed a truth that was already there. I simply had the resources to verify it. Richard set down the paper. So what happens now? You walk away from the deal, report me to the authorities, destroy everything I've built. That depends, Chen said. Chen, on what Ms. Richardson decides? Every head in the room swung toward Maya. What does she have to do with this? The legal counsel demanded. Everything, Chen replied. Ms. Richardson is the reason I discovered this fraud. She is also the reason I haven't already reported it. Maya felt the weight of a dozen stares pressing down on her. I don't understand, she said. Chen leaned forward. I am offering you a choice, Maya. 2 paths, 2 futures. Not just for yourself, but for everyone in this room. He folded his hands. Path 1. I withdraw from this acquisition entirely. I report the fraud to the appropriate authorities. Mr. Thornton faces criminal charges. The Grandview's reputation is destroyed. The employees, including the invisible ones you told me about, lose their jobs. Everything burns. Maya's stomach turned. Path 2. We proceed with the acquisition under new terms. Mr. Thornton resigns immediately and cooperates with a full internal investigation. The fraud is addressed privately, the inflated values corrected, and the hotel reorganized under new leadership. Chen paused. Leadership that includes you, Maya, not as Director of International Guest Relations, as Chief Operating Officer of the Grandview reporting directly to Chen Global Holdings. The room went completely silent. Chief Operating Officer. Maya could barely process the words. "You're asking her to decide my fate," Richard's voice cracked. "A woman who's been here 4 years, who I ordered removed from this building 2 days ago." "I am asking her to decide the fate of this organization," Chen corrected. "You are merely one part of that equation." "This is insane. You can't give that kind of power to someone who was cleaning rooms last week." "I can give power to anyone I choose, Mr. Thornton. That is what $200 million buys. The question is not whether I can. The question is whether Ms. Richardson will accept." Maya stood up slowly. Her legs felt unsteady. Everyone was watching her. Richard, Jennifer, the lawyers, the board members, Chen, all of them waiting for her to speak. "I need a moment," she said. "Take whatever time you need." Maya walked out of the conference room. The hallway was empty, quiet, the same hallway where she had stood with her cleaning cart just 2 days ago listening through the ventilation grate. Everything had changed, and nothing had changed. She was still the same woman, still carried the same education, still wore the same jade pendant against her chest. The only difference was that now people were finally seeing her. But what did she want them to see? Maya thought about Richard Thornton, the man who had ordered her removed, the man who had dismissed her qualifications as takeout menu phrases, the man who had built a career on fraud and covered it up for years. He deserved consequences. But did he deserve destruction? She thought about Jennifer Walsh, the woman whose 30-second decision had cost Maya 4 years, the woman who had confessed out of guilt, the woman who wanted to do better. Did she deserve to lose her job when the truth came out? She thought about Emma Rodriguez and James, the security guard, and Fitz and David, the dishwasher, and Esperanza, the housekeeper, and Marcus, the maintenance worker. All the invisible people who had nothing to do with Richard's fraud but would suffer if the hotel collapsed. Did they deserve to pay for someone else's sins? Maya pulled out her phone. She dialed her mother's number. "Baby, is everything okay?" "Mama, I need to ask you something." "Anything." "When you were working those double shifts when things were hardest, did you ever want to give up? Did you ever want to just let it all burn?" Silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice, soft and knowing. "Every day, baby, every single day. There were mornings I woke up so tired and so angry I could barely see straight. I thought about walking away 1,000 times. But you didn't." "No, I didn't." "Why not?" Her mother was quiet for a long moment. "Because burning things down is easy. Anyone can destroy. It takes something else entirely to build, to repair, to make something broken into something whole." Maya closed her eyes. "Mama, what if someone doesn't deserve to be saved? What if they hurt you? What if they made your life harder than it had to be?" "Then you have a choice, baby. You can make them pay for what they did, or you can make them watch while you build something better than anything they could have imagined." Her mother's voice hardened. "I've been poor. I've been dismissed. I've been invisible my whole life. And you know what I learned? Revenge doesn't change your circumstances. It just makes you a different kind of prisoner. But success says building something, proving them wrong by living well, that's freedom." Maya wiped her eyes. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby. Whatever you decide, you make it your choice, not theirs, yours." Maya hung up. She stood in the empty hallway for another minute, then she walked back into the conference room. Everyone looked up. Richard's face was a mask of barely controlled panic. Jennifer's eyes were red. The lawyers had stopped shuffling papers. Even Chen, for all his composure, seemed to be holding his breath. Maya walked to the head of the table and stood beside Chen. "I have conditions," she said. Chen nodded. "Name them." "First, Richard Thornton resigns, but he cooperates fully with the internal investigation. No criminal charges unless the investigation reveals additional fraud beyond what we already know." Richard's shoulders sagged with relief. "Second, Jennifer Walsh remains employed, but she undergoes mandatory training on unconscious bias and equitable hiring practices. She also personally reviews every application that housekeeping has rejected in the last 5 years." Jennifer looked up with shock. "Third, the hotel implements a comprehensive talent identification program across all departments. Every employee gets the opportunity to disclose skills and qualifications that aren't reflected in their current positions. Those with hidden talents get opportunities to advance." Maya paused. "Fourth, Esperanza Gutierrez, David Park, Marcus Thompson, and every other employee I've identified as operating below their potential receives immediate evaluation for positions aligned with their qualifications." Chen was smiling now. "And fifth?" Maya turned to face the room. I accept the position of Chief Operating Officer, but I report to the Chen Global Holdings Board, not to whoever replaces Richard. I have full authority over hiring human resources and organizational culture, and I have final say over any decision that affects the invisible people in this building. The room was silent. Chen stood and extended his hand. Agreed? On all counts. Maya shook his hand. Then we have a deal. The next 3 hours were a blur of legal documents and signatures and handshakes that felt like endings and beginnings all at once. Richard Thornton cleared his office by noon. Maya watched him carry out a box of personal items flanked by security, the same security he had used to keep her invisible for 4 years. He stopped when he saw her. I suppose you're enjoying this. No, Richard, I'm not. He studied her face. You could have destroyed me. Chen gave you the power. Why didn't you use it? Maya thought about her mother's words. Because destruction was never my goal. Change was. You just happened to be in the way. Richard set down his box. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, not just for Friday, for all of it. For 4 years of walking past you without seeing. For building a system that made you invisible. For being so focused on my own climb that I forgot to look at who I was stepping on. I appreciate that, Richard. I do. Will it change anything? Maya considered the question. It changes you. Whether that matters depends on what you do next. Richard picked up his box. I spent 23 years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. Maybe losing everything is the only way I could finally see that. He walked toward the exit. Then he stopped. Maya. Yes. Build something good. Something real. Something that would have seen people like you from the beginning. Then he was gone. Jennifer Walsh found Maya in her new office 2 hours later. The corner office. The one with the Manhattan skyline view. The one Richard Thornton had occupied for 8 years. Can I come in? Of course. Jennifer sat down across from Maya. The reversal of their positions was not lost on either of them. I wanted to thank you for the second chance. You didn't have to include that in your conditions. No, I didn't. Why did you Maya leaned back in her chair. Because 4 years ago you made a decision in 30 seconds that changed my life. Today I made a decision in 30 minutes that changed yours. Do you see the difference? Jennifer frowned. The time, the intention. You made your decision carelessly, without thought, without consideration of who I was or what I could offer. I made my decision deliberately, weighing consequences, considering who you are and who you could become. Maya leaned forward. That's the difference between a system built on assumptions and a system built on attention. One destroys potential, the other develops it. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I want to be different. I want to do better, but I don't know how. That's why I'm keeping you here, Jennifer, not to punish you, to teach you, and to learn from what you did wrong. Maya stood and walked to the window. In 6 months, I want you to identify every qualified person you've ever dismissed because of assumptions. Every application you rejected without reading. Every talented individual you overlooked because they didn't look like what you expected talent to look like. She turned back to face Jennifer. Then I want you to find them, every single one, and I want you to personally apologize. Jennifer's face went pale. That could be hundreds of people. Then you better get started. Maya's phone buzzed, a text from Chen. Board meeting in 1 hour. They want to meet their new COO. Don't be late. She smiled and typed back, I'm never late. I've been early for 4 years. The response came immediately. That's exactly why I chose you. Jennifer stood to leave. Maya, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think people can really change? After a lifetime of seeing the world one way, can they learn to see it differently? Maya thought about Richard Thornton clearing out his office, about her mother working double shifts for 18 years, about Chen Wei-lin building an empire from nothing, about herself pushing a cleaning cart through hallways full of people who never saw her. I think change is the only thing that's constant, Jennifer. The question is whether you choose to change or whether change chooses you. Jennifer nodded slowly. I'll start on those files tonight. I know you will. Jennifer left. Maya stood alone in her new office. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the skyline in shades of gold and orange. 3 days ago, she had watched this same sunset through the service elevator window, wondering if anything would ever change. Now she stood in the corner office looking out at a city full of invisible people. People like she had been. People who had skills and dreams and potential that no one bothered to see. Maya Richardson had spent 4 years preparing for an opportunity that never came, and then it came, all at once. Overwhelming and terrifying, and exactly what she had been waiting for. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Baby, I just got a call from someone at your hotel. They said you're some kind of chief officer now. They want to schedule a celebration dinner. What is happening?" Maya laughed. "Mama, do you remember what you told me this morning about building instead of burning?" "Of course I remember. I said it 3 hours ago." "I chose to build, Mama. I chose to build something that would have seen people like us from the beginning." Silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice breaking. "Oh, baby, my baby girl, my smart, strong, incredible baby girl. I couldn't have done it without you, Mama, without everything you sacrificed, everything you taught me. You did this yourself, Maya, all those years of studying, all those nights of practicing, all those rejection letters you never let break you. This is yours. You earned it." Maya wiped her eyes. "I have a board meeting in an hour, but tomorrow I'm coming home, and we're going to celebrate properly. I'll make your favorite, fried chicken and collard greens, and that sweet potato pie you love." "That sounds perfect, Mama." "I love you, baby, more than you'll ever know." "I love you too." Maya hung up and took one more look at the sunset. Tomorrow the real work would begin, building new systems, changing old assumptions, finding the invisible people and giving them the opportunities they deserved. It would be hard, complicated, messy. People would resist, old habits would die slow, the system would fight back against anyone trying to change it. But Maya Richardson had spent 4 years preparing. She was ready. The sun dipped below the horizon. The office grew dark. And somewhere in the building, or below, a woman in a gray housekeeping uniform pushed a cart down an empty hallway, invisible to everyone around her. But not for long. Not anymore. Maya Richardson would make sure of that. 6 months later, Maya Richardson stood before 3,000 people. The National Hospitality Association conference had never seen anything like this. A keynote speaker who had been cleaning hotel rooms just 6 months ago. A chief operating officer who had risen from housekeeping. A story that seemed too incredible to be true. But here she was. The lights were blinding. The crowd was silent. Every seat in the Las Vegas Convention Center was filled. Maya gripped the podium and took a breath. 6 months ago, I pushed a cleaning cart through the lobby of the Grandview Hotel in Manhattan. I had a master's degree from Beijing University. I spoke 3 languages fluently. I had spent 6 years studying international business in China, and I was invisible. She paused. I was invisible because the system that employed me was designed to see uniforms, not people, to see job titles, not potential, to see what they expected, not what was actually there. The audience was absolutely still. Today I want to tell you about what happens when you start seeing, really seeing, the people who work for you, the talent hiding in plain sight, the extraordinary potential buried under ordinary assumptions. Maya clicked to her first slide. In 6 months, the Grandview has identified 47 employees with skills and qualifications that were not being utilized. 47 people who were invisible, who had been invisible for years, some for decades. The number appeared on the screen behind her. Let me tell you about 3 of them. Maya clicked again. Esperanza Gutierrez, housekeeping staff for 18 months. Bachelor's degree in hospitality management from UNLV, fluent in Spanish and Portuguese. She applied for a guest services position when she was hired. Her application was rejected because she lacked direct hospitality experience. She had been working in hospitality for 6 years in Mexico City before immigrating. The audience murmured. Today, Esperanza is our Director of Latin American Guest Services. In the last quarter, satisfaction scores among Spanish-speaking guests have increased by 43%. Revenue from Latin American tour groups has doubled. Maya clicked again. David Park, kitchen staff for 2 years. Former sous chef at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Seoul. Certified sommelier. He had been washing dishes because his Korean credentials weren't recognized in the United States. She paused. Today, David is our executive sous chef. His Korean fusion menu has been nominated for a James Beard Award. The restaurant that ignored his talents for 2 years is now featured in Food and Wine magazine because of his vision. Maya clicked once more. Marcus Thompson, maintenance department for 3 years. Licensed electrician for 20 years. Taught electrical engineering at a community college for 12 years. He was changing light bulbs because no one ever asked what else he could do. The image showed Marcus in a new uniform. Facilities engineering manager. Today, Marcus oversees a complete renovations of the Grandview's electrical systems. His innovations will save the hotel $400,000 annually in energy costs. His teaching background has made him our most effective trainer for technical staff. Maya stepped away from the podium. These are not exceptional stories. These are ordinary stories that should never have needed to be told. Esperanza, David, and Marcus should have been recognized from day one. Their talents should have been visible. Their potential should have been developed. She walked to the edge of the stage. Instead, they were invisible. Because the systems we build, the assumptions we make, the shortcuts we take when reviewing applications and evaluating employees, these things create blindness. They hide talent. They waste potential. They cost us innovation and excellence that was right there all along, waiting to be seen. The audience was completely silent. I know what invisibility feels like. I lived it for 4 years. And I can tell you that every single day in every single hotel represented in this room, there are people just like me. People with skills you don't know about. People with languages you've never heard them speak. People with degrees and certifications and experiences that could transform your operations if you only knew they existed. Maya returned to the podium. The question is not whether this talent exists. It does. The question is whether you're brave enough to look for it. Whether you're humble enough to admit you've been missing it. Whether you're wise enough to understand that the most valuable asset you have isn't your building or your brand. It's your people. All of them. Not just the ones you already see. She clicked to her final slide. The Hidden Talents Initiative that we implemented at the Grandview is now available to every member of the National Hospitality Association. The framework, the assessment tools, the implementation guide, everything you need to start seeing the invisible people in your own organizations. Maya paused. I'm not asking you to do this because it's the right thing to do, although it is. I'm asking you to do this because it's the smart thing to do, because every day you overlook qualified talent, you're leaving money on the table. You're missing innovation. You're failing to serve your guests as well as you could. She took a breath. But more than that, I'm asking you to do this because somewhere in your hotel right now there's a person pushing a cleaning cart or washing dishes or changing light bulbs. A person with dreams and qualifications and potential that nobody has ever asked about. A person who has been invisible for so long they've almost forgotten they deserve to be seen. Maya's voice caught. I was that person for 4 years. And I can tell you that the moment someone finally sees you after years of being invisible, it changes everything. Not just your circumstances, your soul. She looked out at the 3,000 faces. Be that someone. For the invisible people in your organizations. It might be the most important thing you ever do. The applause started slowly. Then it built. Then it became a standing ovation that lasted 4 full minutes. Maya stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face, watching 3,000 hospitality executives applaud for a woman who had been mopping their floors 6 months ago. She had never felt more visible in her life. After the keynote, Maya was surrounded, business cards pressed into her hands, requests for interviews, invitations to consult with hotel chains across the country, CEOs who wanted to hear more about the Hidden Talents Initiative, HR directors who wanted to implement it immediately. The transformation was overwhelming. 6 months ago, she couldn't get anyone to return her emails. Now she couldn't escape the attention. Chen found her in the crowd an hour later. That was extraordinary, he said in Mandarin. You moved them. I could see it in their faces. I just told the truth. The truth told well is the most powerful force in the world. Chen smiled. I have someone who wants to meet you, someone who flew in specifically for your speech. He guided her through the crowd to a quiet corner where a woman in her 70s waited. She was elegant, distinguished, familiar in a way Maya couldn't quite place. Ms. Richardson, huh? The woman said, extending her hand. My name is Margaret Chen. I am Wei Lin's mother. Maya's eyes widened. She had never heard Chen mention his mother, had assumed, given his stories about poverty in Fujian province, that both his parents had passed years ago. Mrs. Chen, I had no idea. My son keeps me hidden. The older woman's eyes twinkled. He says I am too honest for business meetings. I tell people what I think, and he says that is not how business is done in America. Chen looked slightly embarrassed. Mother? Quiet, Wei Lin. I am speaking to this remarkable young woman. Margaret Chen took Maya's hands in hers. I watched your speech, every word, and I must tell you something. Maya waited. 53 years ago, I came to this country with nothing. My husband had died. My son was 7 years old. I could not speak English. I could not read. I had no education, no skills, no prospects. Her grip on Maya's hands tightened. I worked in a laundry for 15 years, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and every night I came home and taught my son to read, taught him mathematics, taught him that poverty was not destiny, that invisibility was not permanent. Margaret's eyes glistened. I was invisible my whole life, Ms. Richardson. I never found my moment. Never had my Chen Wei Lin walk into a conference room and demand that someone see me. I lived and I died invisible. My son built his empire, but I stayed in the shadows unseen. Maya's throat tightened. Mrs. Chen, let me finish. I watched you today. I saw you stand in front of 3,000 people and tell them that invisible people matter, that hidden talents deserve to be found, that systems must change. Margaret released Maya's hands and cupped her face gently. You are the daughter I never had, the voice I never found, everything I wished I could have been, but never had the chance to become. Tears streamed down both their faces. Promise me something, Maya Richardson. Anything. Promise me you will never stop seeing, never stop speaking, never stop fighting for the invisible ones. Promise me that my silence will not have been for nothing, that my invisibility will matter because it helped shape a son who helped shape you. Maya could barely speak. I promise. Margaret nodded and stepped back. Good. Now go. You have work to do. People to change. Systems to rebuild. She smiled through her tears. And I am an old woman who needs to sit down before I make more of a scene. Chen guided his mother away, but not before shooting Maya a look of profound gratitude. Maya stood alone in the crowd processing what had just happened. 53 years. Margaret Chen had been invisible for 53 years. And she had spent that invisibility pouring everything she had into her son, teaching him, shaping him, giving him the tools to build an empire that would eventually change things for people like her, like Maya. The chain of sacrifice stretched back generations. Her mother's double shifts, Margaret's laundry work, all the invisible women who had poured their talents into children they hoped would find the visibility they never achieved. Maya dried her eyes and straightened her blazer. She had promises to keep. The flight back to New York gave Maya time to think. Sitting in first class, a luxury she still wasn't used to, she reviewed the messages that had flooded her phone during the conference. Jennifer Walsh had texted, I watched the live stream. You were incredible. I found 6 more overlooked applications today, setting up interviews for next week. Emma Rodriguez had sent a photo her new business cards. Assistant Director of Housekeeping Operations. The promotion Maya had recommended 3 months ago. David Park had forwarded a message the James Beard Foundation confirming his nomination. Esperanza had shared a video her team celebrating after breaking the quarterly satisfaction record. And at the bottom of her inbox, a message that made Maya's heart stop. From R. Thornton subject. Watching from a distance, she opened it with trembling fingers. Ms. Richardson, I watched your keynote today. Every word. I'm not sure if you're aware that the conference post recording's online, but I found it, and I watched it 3 times. I don't have Sunbehat to reach out. I know that. What I did, both the fraud and the years of blindness, those things can't be undone. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or understanding. I'm writing because I needed you to know that you changed something in me. Not the exposure. Not the resignation. Not the consequences. You. The way you saw people when I couldn't. The way you fought for them when I wouldn't. The way you built something extraordinary out of the ashes of what I destroyed. I've been volunteering at a community center in Brooklyn, teaching hospitality skills to people trying to get back on their feet. Former inmates. Recovering addicts. People who society has decided aren't worth seeing. It's not much. It doesn't make up for anything, but it's something. I finally understand what you meant when you said change happens whether we choose it or not. I'm trying to choose it now. I'm trying to see people the way you see them. Thank you for not destroying me when you had the chance. Thank you for believing that people can change even when they don't deserve that belief. Richard Thornton. Maya read the email 4 times. Then she typed a response. Richard, I'm glad you're finding your way. The path to seeing clearly is long and difficult, but you've taken the first steps. Keep going. Maya. She hit send and leaned back in her seat. 6 months ago, she would have been furious at the audacity of his message. Now she felt something different. Not forgiveness exactly, more like release. Richard Thornton's journey was his own now, his choices, his consequences, his redemption or lack thereof. Maya had her own journey to focus on, and it was just beginning. The Grandview had transformed. Maya walked through the lobby at 7:00 a.m. on her first day back from the conference. The same lobby where she had pushed her cleaning cart. The same marble floors she had mopped. The same chandeliers she had dusted. But everything felt different now. A young woman at the front desk saw her and smiled broadly. "Good morning, Ms. Richardson." "Good morning, Destiny. How was your weekend?" Destiny Williams, former computer science student, former invisible housekeeper, current junior IT analyst thanks to the hidden talents assessment that had revealed her technical background. "Amazing. I implemented the new check-in system we discussed. Reduced average processing time by 40%. Maya stopped walking. 40%? I know, right? Turns out the old system was running 3 redundant verification loops. Nobody ever looked at the code because nobody thought a housekeeper would know how to read code. Maya smiled. That's exactly why we had to start looking. Outstanding work, Destiny. She continued toward the elevator, passing James at the security desk. Morning, James. How's your daughter? She got accepted to the veterinary science program at Cornell. Full scholarship. Maya's heart swelled. James, that's wonderful. You must be so proud. I am. And Ms. Richardson, thank you for remembering, for asking, for always asking. She touched his arm briefly and continued to the elevator. These small moments had become the rhythm of her days. Checking in, asking questions, seeing people. It took time, energy, attention. But the return was immeasurable. Her office was exactly as she had left it. The corner office. The Manhattan skyline view. The space that had once belonged to Richard Thornton and now represented everything he had failed to build. On her desk sat a folder with Chen's logo. She opened it and found the documents she had been waiting for. The Chen Institute for Cross-Cultural Excellence. Final approval from the board. Groundbreaking scheduled for next month. Maya read through the plans with growing excitement. The institute would be located in Queens, close to immigrant communities, close to people who understood what it meant to have skills that no one valued. The first class would include 40 students, housekeepers and maintenance workers and kitchen staff from hotels across the Northeast, people whose hidden talents had been identified through the initiative Maya had designed, people who would learn leadership, business strategy, cross-cultural communication, people who would become the next generation of hospitality executives, people who would never have to be invisible the way Maya had been. Her phone rang. Chen, you saw the documents. I just finished reading them. And Maya looked out at the skyline. It's perfect. Everything we discussed. Everything we planned. There's one more thing. Something not in the documents. What? The board has approved naming the institute. They want to call it the Richardson Center for Hidden Talents. Maya couldn't speak. Maya, are you there? I'm here. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let us honor what you've built, what you've survived, what you represent to every invisible person who will walk through those doors. Maya wiped her eyes. Yes, of course, yes. Good. I'll inform the board. And Maya. Yes. My mother called this morning. She wanted me to tell you that she's very proud of her American daughter. Maya laughed through her tears. Tell her I'm proud to be her daughter, even if it's only honorary. I will. Get some rest. You have a groundbreaking ceremony to prepare for. The line went dead. Maya sat in the silence of her office, processing everything. The Richardson Center for Hidden Talents. Her name. On a building, dedicated to helping people like her. It was almost too much to comprehend. Her phone buzzed with a text. Her mother. Baby, I just got a call from someone at Chen's company. They said they're naming something after you. What's going on? Maya smiled and typed back. Come to New York next month, Mama. There's something I want you to see. The response was immediate. I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The groundbreaking ceremony took place on a crisp October morning. Maya stood beside Chen at the construction site, surrounded by cameras and reporters and dignitaries who had come to witness the birth of something new, but her eyes kept drifting to the front row. Her mother sat there, wearing the nicest dress she owned, the same dress she had worn to Maya's college graduation a decade ago, the same dress she had worn to every important moment of her daughter's life. Beside her sat Margaret Chen. The two women had met for the first time that morning. Two invisible mothers, 2 lifetimes of sacrifice, 2 paths that had converged in this moment through their children. They were holding hands. Maya had to look away to keep from crying. Chen stepped to the microphone. Today we break ground on something more than a building. We break ground on a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing, a new commitment to finding and developing talent wherever it hides. He paused. I came to this country 53 years ago with nothing but my mother's faith and my own determination. I was invisible, I was overlooked, I was dismissed. But I refused to stay that way. He gestured to Maya. 6 months ago, I walked into a hotel in Manhattan. I came to make an investment, but what I found was something more valuable than any property. I found a woman who had been invisible for 4 years. A woman with qualifications that exceeded everyone in the building. A woman who had been overlooked and dismissed and forgotten by a system that couldn't see past her uniform. Chen's voice hardened. That woman saved my investment meeting. Then she saved the hotel. Then she built something that is changing how our entire industry thinks about human potential. He stepped back from the microphone. I would like to introduce the person this institute is named for. The woman who showed me that hidden talents are everywhere waiting to be discovered. The woman who turned her invisibility into a mission to ensure no one else has to suffer the same fate. Maya Richardson. The applause was thunderous. Maya walked to the microphone on legs that felt unsteady. She looked out at the crowd. Cameras, reporters, dignitaries, hotel executives who had flown in from around the world. And in the front row, her mother. Crying, smiling, prouder than Maya had ever seen her. Maya took a breath. When I was 24 years old, I stood in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, terrified and exhilarated, ready to take on the world. I had just been accepted to Beijing University. I had just been given a chance to pursue my dreams. She paused. When I was 28, I returned to America with a master's degree fluency in 3 languages and absolute certainty that the world was waiting for me. I was wrong. The crowd was silent. For the next 6 years, I collected rejection letters, 317 of them. I was told I was overqualified. I was told I didn't have enough experience. I was told I wasn't the right fit. What I was never told, but what I eventually understood, was that I wasn't what they expected talent to look like. Maya's voice grew stronger. When I finally accepted a job as a housekeeper at the Grandview Hotel, I told myself it was temporary, a way to survive while I kept fighting for something better. But temporary became permanent. Weeks became months, became years, and somewhere along the way, I stopped fighting. She looked at her mother. My mother never stopped fighting. She worked double shifts for 18 years to give me the chance she never had. She sacrificed everything so I could pursue education and opportunity, and when I came home defeated, when I told her I was giving up, she said something I never forgot. Maya's voice cracked. She said, "Baby, you don't get to give up, because giving up doesn't just fail you. It fails everyone who sacrificed to get you here. It fails everyone who will come after you. Your job isn't just to succeed for yourself. Your job is to succeed so loud that doors open for people who look like you." Tears streamed down her face. "Mama, I heard you. I'm trying to succeed loud enough to open doors. This building, this institute, everything I've built in the last 6 months, it's all because you refused to let me give up." Her mother was sobbing now. Margaret Chen had her arm around her. 2 invisible mothers, bound together by daughters they had raised to be seen. Maya turned back to the crowd. The Richardson Center for Hidden Talents will train 200 people in its first year. Housekeepers and maintenance workers and kitchen staff whose potential has been overlooked. People who have been invisible for far too long. She gripped the podium. But this building is just a beginning. The real work happens in every hotel, every restaurant, every business where managers and executives have to decide whether to look deeper or take shortcuts, where they have to choose between seeing people or seeing uniforms. Maya stepped away from the microphone. 14 months ago, I was invisible. Today, I'm standing before you with my name on a building. Not because I'm special, not because I'm exceptional, but because someone finally chose to see me. Someone finally asked what I could do instead of assuming they already knew. She looked directly into the cameras. Right now, in hotels and restaurants and offices across this country, there are people just like me, people with talents no one has asked about, people with dreams no one has heard. People who have been invisible for so long, they've almost forgotten they deserve to be seen. Her voice rose. Find them. See them. Ask them what they can do. Because I promise you what they show you will change everything. Not just your business, not just your bottom line, your soul. Maya picked up the ceremonial shovel and drove it into the ground. The crowd erupted. And somewhere in the front row, Maya's mother stood with tears streaming down her face, watching her daughter build something that would change lives for generations to come. 1 year later, the Richardson Center graduated its first class. 42 students, former housekeepers and dishwashers and maintenance workers, people who had been invisible for years, sometimes decades. They walked across the stage to receive their certificates. Each one shook Maya's hand. Each one whispered a thank you that carried the weight of transformed lives. Esperanza Gutierrez gave the commencement speech. She talked about 18 months of making beds while her hospitality degree collected dust. About the moment Maya saw her name on a list of hidden talents. About the opportunity that had changed everything. "I was invisible," Esperanza said. "Now I help others become visible. That is the mission. That is the gift Ms. Richardson gave us. Not just our own success, the chance to pay it forward." David Park sat in the audience, his James Beard Award sitting on his restaurant's mantel back in Manhattan. Marcus Thompson was there, overseeing the technical systems for the ceremony systems he had designed himself. Emma Rodriguez had brought 3 members of her housekeeping team, women she had identified as having hidden talents worthy of future classes. Jennifer Walsh sat in the back, having personally recruited 4 of the graduates through her ongoing review of overlooked applications. And in the front row, where she always sat for important moments, Maya's mother. Gloria Richardson had retired 6 months ago. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to work. Maya's salary had made that possible. But more than the money, the pride had transformed her. She told everyone about her daughter. The hotel executives at her church, the neighbors on her block, the strangers she met at the grocery store. "My baby was invisible," she would say. "Now she builds buildings to make sure nobody else has to be invisible. Can you imagine my baby?" The ceremony ended with Maya taking the stage one final time. "1 year ago, we broke ground on a dream that hidden talents could be found, that invisible people could be seen, that systems could change." She looked out at the 42 graduates. Today, that dream walks out of this building in the form of 42 extraordinary individuals. 42 leaders who will go into hotels and restaurants and businesses across this country. 42 people who will carry the mission forward. Maya smiled. "But this is not the end. This is year 1. Next year, we will graduate 200, the year after 500, and every single one of them will go out into the world and find more hidden talents, more invisible people, more potential waiting to be discovered." She stepped back from the podium. The true value of a person, like a precious stone, isn't diminished by being temporarily overlooked. Its worth remains intact, waiting for the moment when the right eyes finally see its brilliance. Maya looked at her mother. "Mama, you always saw my brilliance, even when no one else could. This building, these graduates, this movement, it all started because you refused to let me become invisible, because you taught me that my worth wasn't determined by how others saw me, because you sacrificed everything so I could become who I was meant to be." Gloria was crying again. She had cried at every ceremony for the past year. Maya didn't mind. Those tears were badges of honor, proof that all the sacrifice had been worth it. To everyone watching, wherever you are, I want you to remember something. The invisible people are everywhere. In your hotels, in your restaurants, in your offices, in your homes. They are waiting to be seen. They are waiting for someone to ask what they can do. They are waiting for the chance to show their brilliance. Maya's voice filled the auditorium. Be that someone. Ask that question. Give that chance. Because I promise you, when you finally see the invisible people, when you finally recognize their worth, everything changes. Not just for them, for everyone. She raised her hand toward the graduates. Class of 2024, go change the world. Go find the hidden talents. Go see the invisible people. And never ever let anyone tell you that you are not enough. The graduates rose to their feet. The audience rose with them. The applause shook the building. And Maya Richardson stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face, watching 42 formerly invisible people prepare to transform an industry. She had started as a housekeeper. She had become a chief operating officer. She had built an institute. She had graduated a class. And she was just getting started. Because the truth Maya had learned in 4 years of invisibility was this one person seen at the right moment could change everything. And her job now was to make sure that moment came for as many people as possible. That night, Maya sat alone in her office at the Grandview. The same corner office, the same Manhattan skyline, the same view she had dreamed about during those 4 years of pushing a cleaning cart. On her desk sat a photograph. Her mother, Margaret Chen, the 42 graduates, Chen Wei-lin, Esperanza and David and Marcus and Emma, all the people whose lives had intersected with hers, all the invisible ones who had become visible together. Maya touched the jade pendant at her chest. Mrs. Liu's gift from Beijing. The reminder of where she had become herself. She thought about the old woman who had corrected her tones over bowls of dumplings. She thought about her mother's double shifts and Margaret's laundry work. She thought about every invisible person who had sacrificed so someone else could be seen. And she made a promise to keep seeing, to keep asking, to keep building, to never let the invisible stay hidden, not for one more day, not for one more person, not ever again. Maya Richardson stood up from her desk and walked to the window. The city stretched out before her, millions of lights against the darkness. And somewhere in those lights, in hotels and restaurants and offices across the city, invisible people were waiting for someone to see them, waiting for their moment. Maya smiled. She would find them. She would see them. She would help them rise. Because that was her purpose now. That was her promise. That was her legacy. The woman who had been invisible for 4 years would spend the rest of her life making sure no one else had to wait that long. The city sparkled below her. The future stretched ahead. And Maya Richardson, once the invisible maid in the gray uniform, had finally become exactly who she was always meant to be. Not just seen, but seeing. Not just visible, but making others visible. Not just changed, but changing the world. One hidden talent at a time.